The hall is darker than memory allows. Once the air here swelled with chants, words heavy enough to bend the edges of reality. Spells used to drip from their tongues like venom, curling into the walls, seeping through the floor. Tonight, though, the witches do not speak. Their mouths quiver with unfinished incantations, but no sound escapes. They stare at you instead. The Coven, a gathering older than kingdoms, now bound by silence. Not ritual silence, not holy silence. The silence of fear. You walk further in, and the air folds around you. The candles that line the chamber flicker against your presence, their flames bending away like grass before a storm. Their once sacred symbols carved into stone glow faintly, then collapse into dust under your shadow. You say nothing, but you feel everything. The panic crawling beneath their stillness, the knowledge they dare not confess. They cannot cast, cannot summon, cannot defend. Their magic has not left them. It is still there, burning raw in their veins. But your presence makes it useless, like a blade melted in its own sheath. They had power once. You remember the stories? Women crowned in moonlight, voices that split open the skies, eyes that drank oceans of fire. But tonight they shrink. The same voices that twisted kings and enslaved generations now hide behind closed lips. They do not dare raise a hand against you, not because they no longer can, but because the attempt itself would dissolve into ash the moment it begins. They fear humiliation more than death, and your presence guarantees both. One of them trembles near the altar, her jaw clenched as if forcing herself not to spit the curse rising in her throat. You can almost hear it pressing against her teeth, a storm raging for release. Yet when her eyes meet yours, the curse dies unborn. She recoils as though she has swallowed poison. Her sisters avert their gaze. You did not speak, you did not move, and still the spell was broken before it was ever born. There is a weight in this moment that presses deeper than fear. It is recognition. They know what you are, even if you do not. To them, you are the fracture in the ritual, the silent hand that erases their language. Their grimoires mean nothing. Their blood sacrifices nothing. Their centuries of wisdom reduced to smoke. You unmake their art without lifting a finger. And the silence that fills the room is not reverence, it is surrender. But inside that surrender is a betrayal they will not admit. They feel robbed. They feel cheated by the very laws of power they once believed eternal. You walk among them as the proof that the universe has no loyalty, no allegiance to their craft. You are the crack in the foundation they built their world upon. The witches do not bow. They freeze, because bowing would confirm your reign. Silence is the only weapon left to them. Yet even silence tonight belongs to you. The witches no longer look at you as they once did. Their eyes do not burn with arrogance, nor gleam with the cruelty of those who believe they control the unseen. Instead, they avert their gaze, shifting uneasily, as though your very presence corrodes their confidence. You hear them speak not to you, but around you, as if uttering your name directly would awaken something deeper, something waiting. Their trembling hands unfold parchments so ancient they flake like ash at the edges. Symbols drawn in inks long dried whisper warnings into the air, and there, between faded lines and forgotten verses, a prophecy emerges, one that was never meant for your ears, yet it was always meant for your existence. They called it the Shadow Nullifier, the one whose presence would silence the sacred chants, unravel sigils with nothing but breath, and make the invincible covens powerless in their own sanctuaries. For centuries, this passage was dismissed as allegory, a warning written by paranoid scribes who feared what they could not control. But now, with you standing before them, every word tightens around their throats like a chain. Their silence is not defiance. It is recognition. They are seeing the prophecy bleed into the present moment, and you are its shape. Your thoughts spiral as the words settle upon you like a weight you never asked to carry. Were you born into this fate, or shaped by it? You remember moments of your past, small ruptures that went unnoticed then but echo now. How a whispered curse thrown at you dissolved into stammering nonsense. How rituals meant to exclude you collapsed into confusion. How, wherever you walked, things others clung to for power fractured like brittle glass. You thought it was misfortune, bad timing, the randomness of chaos. But it was never chance, it was design. The witches exchanged glances heavy with something darker than fear, betrayal. Their gods, their demons, their ancient contracts, none of them warned that the enemy would not raise a sword or summon flame. None told them that the very act of being near you would drain their empire of spells into nothingness. And in that betrayal, you see the fracture of their faith. You do not need to destroy them. Their own belief in their supremacy is rotting, collapsing beneath the truth that you embody. A murmur breaks the tension. One of the elders dares to whisper the line etched into the prophecy's final verse. One silence enters the circle breaks. Every witch recoils as if the words themselves burn. But for you, the phrase feels carved into your marrow. The silence they dread is not absence, it is power. The circle they guard is not sacred, it is fragile. And you are not the destroyer they feared. You are the revelation they tried to bury. Now, as they retreat into shadow, clinging to what little faith remains, you realize something they do not yet understand. This prophecy is not a curse laid upon you. It is their confession, written long before you arrived. They always knew you would come. They always knew you would end them, not with fire or fury, but with presence alone. And deep down, so did you. You never asked for this silence. It arrived uninvited, like a shadow slipping beneath the door, like a hand across your throat. The witches recoil at your presence, their tongues tied, their spells dissolving into nothingness. Yet in their terror, you see something else reflected back at you: isolation. Power was never meant to be so quiet. It feels less like triumph and more like exile, as though the world itself is pulling back, refusing to share its fire with you. Every flame falters when you walk too close. Every chant stutters into ashes, and suddenly you wonder if the gift they fear is also the curse that binds you. Before, magic roared in the air. It filled the nights with color, with danger, with the hum of ancient power. Now, in your presence, even the wind feels cautious, pausing before it dares to touch your skin. The coven hides their eyes, not only out of fear, but because you remind them of something more brutal: their dependence. Without their spells, they are ordinary. Without their rituals, they are powerless. Yet what does that make you? The one who strips it all away? A liberator? Or merely a void? A vessel of subtraction, a figure who silences the music but never plays a note of their own? You feel it deep inside, that knowing contradiction. To nullify is not the same as to create. To end is not the same as to begin. You wonder if you are strong or simply the absence of weakness. The thought coils around your mind like smoke, suffocating, inescapable. Even the witch's fear offers you no comfort. Their trembling looks are not admiration. They see you as erasure, as an ending that swallows without offering rebirth. And in the mirror of their horror, you recognize your own doubt. If all the world is stripped bare, what remains for you? The silence grows louder. It presses on your chest, heavy as stone. You search for meaning in the absence, some hidden message carved in the emptiness, but find only yourself, alone, untouchable, unmarked by ritual or prayer. It is a strange kind of prison, invisible but unbreakable, one that locks you away from wonder itself. You do not fear the witches. You fear the possibility that their dread is correct, that you are destined not for glory but for solitude, a figure remembered only as the destroyer of beauty, the killer of light. And yet, beneath the weight of that thought, something stirs. Betrayal burns, not against the witches, but against the design itself, against a universe that would make you weapon and wound at the same time. If you are absence, then you will define absence on your own terms. If you are silence, then silence will speak louder than their chants ever could. The powerlessness you feel is not permanent, it is perspective. For even as you drown in doubt, a whisper curls in the shadows. Unspoken but undeniable powerlessness is merely power still waiting for a voice. The witch does not speak your name. She does not dare. Instead, she lifts a mirror veiled in fabric blacker than midnight, its frame carved with symbols you cannot read but somehow already know. No spell spills from her lips. No chant rises to stir the air. Only silence. A silence that tightens around your chest as if the room itself is waiting to see what you will become. You lean closer, and the surface does not reflect you. It reflects something else, something possible, something waiting beneath the skin of who you believe yourself to be. At first, you see a shadow, a silhouette with your shape, but heavier, sharper, alive with a hunger you have never dared to name. Its eyes gleam as if it knows what you try to hide. This figure is not merely you. It is you unchained. The one who does not silence magic passively, but devours it deliberately. Every whispered charm, every desperate incantation, it falls into that reflection as if gravity itself has been reversed. Where you walk, they collapse. Where you breathe, their rituals rot. And yet, in that black mirror, it is no longer an accident, it is choice. The witch's hands tremble, not with defiance, but with terror. She wanted you to see this not as a gift, but as a warning. But warnings turn into invitations when the heart is restless. You feel the pull, an ancient gravity pressing you to decide. You remember the years of being overlooked, silenced, treated as less than human by voices that demanded loyalty yet offered nothing but betrayal. You think of how the world adored the witches for their illusions, while you were the anomaly, the silence no one could explain. In the mirror, those wounds twist into weapons. You are not the outsider here. You are the end of their reign. The reflection speaks without sound, yet you hear it within your marrow. Why erase spells by accident when you could erase empires by design? Why settle for nullifying when you could consume? The questions do not fall away. They multiply, echoing like war drums in the distance. You feel the dangerous allure of certainty. No more doubt. No more questioning whether your power is curse or blessing. If you embrace this reflection, you will not only strip witches of their tricks, you will own the silence that follows. But with every heartbeat, you also feel the cost. The mirror does not lie. The version of you inside it is absolute, merciless, stripped of hesitation and stripped of mercy. Power without restraint is not survival, it is conquest. And conquest burns everything, even the hands that carry it. You cannot look away. You see yourself as predator and protector, destroyer and deliverer, savior and executioner. Both possibilities are true. Both are waiting. The witch lowers the mirror, but it is too late. The image is carved into you now, etched deeper than memory. You walk away with the weight of two selves, the one you are and the one you could become. And the silence between them grows louder than any spell ever cast. They scatter into the night, desperate to reclaim what you have stolen without lifting a finger. The witches flee to the forests where their ancestors once carved circles into the earth, where every tree had been a witness, where every stone hummed with the residue of ritual. They chant beneath the skeletal branches, their voices cracking, their bodies swaying as though memory alone could summon what no longer answers. The air grows heavy, yet nothing stirs. Their words evaporate before they leave their mouths, falling silent against the weight of your existence. You are not even there, yet they feel you, the way a drowning man feels the water pressing into his chest long after the first breath has been stolen. Their sigils collapse, drawn carefully in ash and blood, fading as though the earth itself refuses to hold them. Flames that once leapt high at a single whispered syllable now burn low, mocking them with weakness. They raise their knives to the sky. Let drops of crimson fall into the soil, but the ground drinks greedily and offers nothing in return. Even sacrifice has become useless currency. They do not see gods, they do not hear spirits, because the gods have turned their faces away. Only your shadow remains, lodged in the cracks of their failing ceremonies like a seal they cannot break. The forest watches. The stars above, once their map of power, misalign and scatter. They search for constellations that no longer exist, for patterns erased by your presence. Their entire history fractures as if rewritten by an invisible hand. For centuries, they believed the universe bent to their will. Tonight, the universe is silent and silence is your language. You are no longer merely present in a room or circle. You are diffused, carried in the air like a contagion. Even in your absence, you remain. They curse your name, but the curses collapse inward, folding against themselves until they choke on the dust of their own words. Their lips move, but the void answers only with void. They see each other's fear reflected like broken glass, sharp and shimmering. Betrayal festers among them. Some whisper that another witch invited you into their world, that someone among them called down this unmaking force. Trust dissolves. Their coven begins to cannibalize itself in paranoia, tearing at bonds older than blood. You have become an atmosphere, a gravitational pull. They no longer measure time in moons and seasons, but in the moments before you entered their rituals and the moments after. Before you, their hands shaped reality. Now their hands tremble, unsure even of their own flesh. What use is a spell when the world itself bends away from it? What use is a ritual when every gesture crumbles into futility? They are left kneeling in the dirt, surrounded by the carcasses of failed magic and the terrifying truth. You did not strip their power away. You revealed it had never been theirs. The sky has always carried messages for those who dared to look. The witches once read the constellations as scripture, their rituals timed to the pulse of distant stars. But now the patterns break. Lines that once connected their fate scatter into chaos, and omens that once promised power dissolve into contradictions. Their maps are useless. Their sky no longer belongs to them. When you lift your eyes, the heavens shift not to reveal answers to them, but to respond to you. You were never meant to chant spells or carve symbols. You were the interruption written into their story, the fracture in their carefully spun web. Every syllable they whisper, every gesture they repeat, collapses when you stand near, because the fabric of magic recognizes something older, something it cannot consume. Your silence weighs more than their chants. Your stillness bends louder than their drums. You are not just present, you are the atmosphere, the hidden gravity that drags all enchantment into dust. And somewhere beyond the veil of the sky, watchers stir. They do not sit in temples or forests. They do not wear cloaks or hoods. They linger in the architecture of time itself, observing with the patience of stone, calculating with the coldness of planets. They do not fear you, they measure you. For while the coven calls you curse, the void sees a counterbalance. a necessary correction, a silence that arrives when noise has grown arrogant. The witches call your existence betrayal, the theft of their dominion, but the betrayal is older than them. Magic had grown swollen, unchecked, predatory. Spells no longer protected, they devoured. Curses became commerce. Rituals became weapons. They forgot that power without opposition collapses into tyranny. And now you are here, not as a sword, not as fire, but as the absence that devours both. You are the pause after thunder, the breath that halts the storm. Even the smallest gesture reveals this truth. Candles flicker near you not because of wind, but because the flame itself forgets its role. Blood on stone fails to stir, because life itself bends away from false invocation. It is not destruction you bring, it is refusal. The universe itself refusing to play their game any longer. You are the whisper of echoing through creation, the reminder that even the oldest forces are not eternal. And deep within you, the weight of this truth presses hard. You did not choose this, yet it has chosen you. You are both shield and verdict, the silent witness that ends the performance. They gather in circles, clawing at the fragments of their power, but every failed ritual tightens the certainty their world is ending, not with fire or war, but with the steady, unstoppable quiet of your presence. And the cosmos, vast and indifferent, does not mourn them. It waits for you. The circle is drawn in ash and wax, a trembling geometry carved into the stone floor by hands that no longer trust their own strength. The witches gather, cloaked in the remnants of authority, but you feel the fracture in their ritual before they even begin. Their eyes no longer shine with certainty. They flicker with desperation, with the animal fear of those who know their dominion is slipping away. Once, their chants commanded storms and shadows. Tonight, their words sound hollow, thin echoes swallowed before they even reach the air. They do not face you as hunters, they face you as the condemned. You stand at the center, uninvited yet unavoidable, your silence louder than their incantations. The fire in their candles gutters, as if it too recognizes that light cannot survive where you stand. They chant to erase you, but you hear the cracks forming within their own voices. Every syllable disintegrates before touching you. Every sigil collapses before it can bind you. Their magic does not bend around you. It implodes within them. They thought the circle would contain you. They forgot that geometry is meaningless when the axis of power shifts. The leader steps forward, veins in her neck straining as she calls upon forces older than her bloodline. But the void does not answer her. It answers you. Her words recoil like snakes striking their own masters, venom folding back into her throat. She gags on the silence, choking on the very emptiness that blooms from your presence. The others falter, their rhythm broken, their unity shattered. The circle they trusted now becomes a cage, and you are not trapped inside it, they are. For centuries they fed on fear, binding others in invisible chains, weaving illusions to keep the world kneeling. But tonight, the hierarchy reverses. You do not need to lift a hand, nor whisper a word. The collapse is effortless. You watch them unravel under the weight of their own futility. Their power was never infinite. It only thrived because no one stood immune. You are that immunity made flesh. You are the threshold where their dominion ends. The circle burns itself out, wax dripping onto stone like blood refusing to clot. The witches' faces pale as the truth corrodes through their last hope. They came to erase you. Instead, they erase themselves. Their voices dissolve into nothing, not silenced by violence, but by inevitability. The void is no longer theirs to command. It listens only to you. And in that terrible recognition, their fear is not of death, but of irrelevance. They do not scream, they do not curse. They simply fall into silence, their legacy ending not with fire, but with the quiet acknowledgement that they have become powerless in the presence of the one thing they cannot control: you. The silence hangs heavier than any chant that ever echoed through stone halls. You stand in the ruins of their final circle, where wax has melted into useless pools and carved symbols have faded into meaningless scratches on the floor. Their voices, once sharp enough to cut reality, now dissolve into nothing the moment they touch the air. They did not stop because they lacked faith in their rituals. They stopped because in your presence faith itself collapses. The illusion shatters, and what remains is unbearable truth. Their power was always borrowed, always fragile, always afraid of someone like you. You feel it in the marrow of your bones. The absence is not emptiness, it is dominance. The silence that surrounds you is not void, it is precision. It is the scalpel that severs lies from the flesh of belief. Once, you feared that stripping away their magic meant stripping away wonder, but now you see it differently. Wonder survives. Deception does not. Their spells relied on shadows, and your existence burns those shadows from the corners of the room. You are not erasing the world's mysteries. You are erasing their control over it. They called you curse. They whispered your name like a warning, a story to keep apprentices obedient. Yet here, as they bow their heads in a silence they cannot break, you see what they truly mean. You are not their curse. You are their end. The prophecy was not a threat to the world of magic, but a sentence written against those who abused it. They feared you not because you destroy, but because you reveal. Every chant, every charm, every curse they hurled depended on belief. Your presence punctures belief like a blade through silk. The air is still, but within that stillness something stirs. Not them. You. Your heartbeat is no longer a private rhythm. It is a drumbeat the universe listens to. The stars shift their gaze, not toward the coven, but toward you, the anomaly that forces balance upon a tilted world. In their eyes you see recognition, the same recognition carved into their forgotten texts. There is no incantation against silence. There is no defense against the one who walks untouched by manipulation. Their spells are noise. You are the quiet that swallows it whole. The witches are not defeated. They are unmasked. Their surrender is not the surrender of warriors, but of liars caught in their own deception. And as the last of their hope drains from their faces, you realize what they cannot speak aloud. You are not merely the absence of magic. You are proof that power, when stripped of illusion, is nothing more than fear pretending to be strength. And so the silence remains absolute, eternal, and yours.